Welcome to The Debate. Today, we're diving into a really timely and quite fascinating question, actually. It's coming out of Tamil Nadu's Tiruchy district, specifically the Uppiliyapuram block, and it concerns a recent incident, Tuesday, September 9th, 2025, at the Alathudaiyanpatti Panchayat Union Middle School. Now, this is a century-old school, serves over 100 local students, and on that particular day, classes were suspended. Not for holiday, mind you, but to host a pretty high-profile government outreach camp, part of Chief Minister M.K. Stalin's Ungaludan Stalin program. And this event, well, it's ignited a really significant discussion about where priorities lie when government services intersect, with the foundational role of education.
Indeed. And while the Ungaludan Stalin initiative, its aim is laudable, bringing crucial services directly to the people, the decision to effectively commandeer a school, interrupting a whole day of learning, especially for vulnerable children, that raises some profound questions for me. So our debate today really centers on this. Does this incident at Alathudaiyanpatti Panchayat Union Middle School reveal a fundamental tension in governance? Between the need for immediate public welfare delivery and, the absolutely foundational importance of uninterrupted education?
Right. And I'll be arguing that, look, in this specific instance, the programmatic urgency and the broad, tangible public benefit that comes from the Ungaludan Stalin camp, it pragmatically justified the temporary use of the school. And yes, the brief disruption.
Whereas I will contend that this decision was actually a significant misstep. It's emblematic, I think, of misplaced priorities and, frankly, a concerning lack of foresight that ultimately undermines the sanctity of our educational institutions.
Okay, so my position is this. I believe the decision to use the Alathudaiyanpatti school for the Ungaludan Stalin camp, while yes, certainly regrettable in its impact on that single day of classes, was fundamentally a pragmatic and, I'd argue, ultimately justifiable necessity, especially when you consider the program's critical objectives and its undeniable, proven successes across the state. The Ungaludan Stalin initiative, which Chief Minister M.K. Stalin launched with quite a bit of momentum back on July 15th, 2025, in Chidambaram, it's really more than just another government scheme. It's ambitious, it's hands-on, and it's specifically designed to bridge that gap between the administration and Tamil Nadu's, 7.8 crore residents, that's 78 million people. Its goal is direct, delivering over 40 essential services right where people live. And we're not talking about minor bureaucratic things here. We're talking about providing crucial ration cards, securing medical certificates for people who need immediate healthcare access, processing pensions like the Kalaignar Magalir Urimai Thittam, which is a vital income support for women heads of households, and resolving these long-standing, often tangled land record disputes. These are issues that profoundly, I would say fundamentally impact people's daily lives, their dignity even. And just consider the sheer scale, the positive impact this program has already had. Tiruchy district alone, just its first phase, saw over 59,000 petitions submitted. 59,000. In Coimbatore, 28,000 petitions processed across 336 sessions. And get this, 2,707 issues were resolved right there on the spot. Even a single camp in Chennai, back in July, saw nearly 11,000 submissions. These aren't just numbers on a page. These are real people, often from quite marginalized communities, finally getting real help efficiently without all the usual red tape. And, in really rural areas like Uppiliyapuram, finding suitable, adequately equipped alternatives like large community centers or marriage halls, they just aren't always available, or they don't have the necessary infrastructure. Officials were quite clear about this. The school's spacious campus, its open grounds, the existing electricity, its central location, it made it genuinely ideal for public access. Specifically, they said, to avoid chaos or logistical nightmares if classes were somehow run alongside the camp. So this was a challenging logistical problem, and they found a practical solution. And crucially, the Education Department acted swiftly. They scheduled a makeup day for Saturday, September 13th. To me, that demonstrates a clear commitment to both public welfare and educational continuity, even if, yes, a temporary, perhaps unavoidable inconvenience occurred.
I absolutely respect the ambitious goals, and yes, the laudable goals of the Ungaludan Stalin program. The intent to serve the public directly, that's commendable. However, I have to strongly disagree that the benefits of this specific camp, in this particular instance, outweighed the really significant cost of suspending education at Alathudaiyanpatti Panchayat Union Middle School. For me, this incident really stands as a stark example of misplaced priorities, and frankly, a concerning lack of genuine foresight in the planning stages. Look, Tamil Nadu, it's a state that prides itself on progress, right? It boasts an impressive 80.3% literacy rate. Education is profoundly valued here, particularly in rural areas where these Panchayat Union middle schools, essentially local government-run middle schools, are seen as absolutely vital ladders out of poverty. So to abruptly halt classes for over 100 students, many from low-income families, denying them access not just to lessons, but very often their crucial midday meal. That isn't just an inconvenience. It is, in effect, a direct slight to their future. As one mother apparently put it quite succinctly, our kids' future can't be paused for photo ops. And the argument for logistical necessity, well, it sounds reasonable on the surface, but it frankly rings hollow when you dig a bit deeper. You've got over 60,000 schools across Tamil Nadu. The state has significant, albeit sometimes maybe under-maintained, public infrastructure. So it's difficult for me to accept that an alternative venue, a dedicated community hall, maybe a local panchayat office, or even, a robust temporary tent structure couldn't have been arranged with proper forward-thinking planning. Ibrahim from the CPI in Tiruchy, often a critical voice, yes, but he rightly termed this a misuse of school premises. He argued it sacrificed precious learning hours for what really appears to be political optics. And what's even more troubling, actually, is the admission that came out from someone inside the Musiri District Education block that formal permission for this school holiday, it seems, did not materialize. Instead, it was declared apparently due to last-minute pressure. Now, that doesn't sound like a well-planned contingency, does it? It sounds like a reactive, ad hoc measure that directly undermined the academic calendar. Despite the promise, yes, of a Saturday makeup session, every single hour counts in a school year. We aim for what, 220 working days? To lose even one day like this sends a message, intended or not, that education is, at times, negotiable.
Okay, I see why you emphasize the impact on the students, and I absolutely understand that profound concern for educational continuity. It's a value I think we both share deeply. However, we must view this through the lens of the immense scale and the critical mission of the Ungaludan Stalin program. We're talking plans for 10,000 camps across the state by November 30th, 2025. This isn't just about administrative convenience, It's about reaching people facing critical, immediate issues. An elderly person waiting for their pension, a family needing a welfare card for essential food supplies, individuals needing access to government schemes that are quite literally lifelines. In remote locations like Uppiliyapuram, the practical constraints on public infrastructure, they're real. Readily available, suitable public spaces are genuinely scarce sometimes. The Alathudaiyanpatti school offered the necessary facilities, the space, or reliable electricity, crucial accessibility that other potential venues simply might not have had. So isn't it possible that this wasn't about disrespecting education, but about making a difficult, perhaps almost unavoidable choice to ensure the program's reach, especially when the educational disruption was, relatively speaking, minimal and promptly addressed with a makeup day? It was about reaching the most vulnerable in the most efficient way possible, given the specific circumstances on the ground. Do you genuinely believe in such a situation that delaying these vital services potentially for weeks would have been the more responsible choice?
I appreciate you laying out the logistical hurdles in remote areas and the scale of the program. However, this brings up for me a crucial distinction. Was it a genuine, pragmatic necessity born of truly unavoidable circumstances? Or was it, as I suspect, more of an administrative convenience that actually stemmed from a lack of proactive planning and, fundamentally, prioritization? The program launched July 15th. Block-level officials had ample time, weeks, if not months, to identify and prepare suitable non-school venues. My core point is about priority. If a century-old school, a vital beacon of learning in that community, becomes the only perceived available option, doesn't that suggest a systemic failure in adequately planning for these critical welfare initiatives before they roll out? The fact, as reported, that last-minute pressure led to the holiday without formal approval, while that highlights a reactive rather than proactive approach to governance. It sends a profoundly concerning message, I think, that education is somehow dispensable when political visibility or administrative ease takes precedence. Doesn't the image, the optics, if you will, of empty classrooms while officials attend to adult grievances, doesn't that paint a picture of inverted values? Especially for the impressionable minds of those children who see their school shut down?
I understand your concern about the message sent, the optics, but I'm not convinced that a single, quickly rectified incident should overshadow the, frankly, transformative impact of Ungaludan Stalin. Thousands have undeniably benefited across the state. From bustling Chennai to the remote Nilgiris, people are securing essential ID cards, getting critical health services, accessing crucial financial aid. The program's design itself, with its digitized petitions and direct follow-ups by collectors, it's genuinely innovative. It cuts through layers of that old bureaucratic red tape that often leaves citizens feeling frustrated and, well, disempowered. So this incident in Tiruchy, while yes, an unfortunate hiccup, it really should be seen within this broader context of overwhelming success. The school education department's immediate assurance of a makeup day on September 13th and their public commitment now to review the process, that demonstrates accountability, doesn't it? And a clear intent to mitigate any harm. This doesn't look like systemic disregard for education to me. It looks like an isolated incident or practical considerations for a moment outweighed ideal ones, followed by a prompt corrective measure. And in fact, we know that previous proposals for similar school takeovers have actually been rejected precisely to safeguard academic schedules. That confirms this was likely an anomaly they are keen to correct, not some emerging standard practice. Doesn't this swift, decisive action to fix the oversight speak to a genuine commitment to both welfare and education, even when they conflict?
That's a fair point about the program's overall success and the immediate mitigation efforts. But let me ask you this. Have you considered that while the program might have many positive outcomes, this Tiruchy incident actually exposes deeper systemic vulnerabilities? Vulnerabilities within our public infrastructure and our planning processes. Tamil Nadu, as we said, rightly prides itself on leading in school enrollment. Yet, many rural schools, like Alathudaiyanpatti, still grapple with chronic teacher shortages and, disturbingly, crumbling infrastructure. We saw that tragically exemplified by the Perur village school ceiling collapse back in August 2025. Fortunately, no fatalities, but it highlighted a pervasive underlying problem. So this raises a fundamental question for me. If we truly prioritize children's futures, why isn't existing school infrastructure being adequately maintained? And perhaps more importantly for this discussion, why aren't dedicated, robust, non-school venues readily available for such vital government programs? Relying on schools as a default venue, it seems to highlight an underinvestment in alternative public spaces. And it points to a recurring pattern, doesn't it, where governmental outreach clashes with existing institutions. We've seen this before, whether it was with the National Viksit Bharat Sankal Yatras or even those previous Ungaludan Stalin hiccups, like the petitions from Sivaganga allegedly found discarded in the Vaigai River, an incident that, severely damaged public trust and raised serious questions about accountability. The promise of a makeup day, while it's a welcome gesture, it doesn't erase the disruption. Nor does it fully address the underlying structural issue or the powerful message that gets sent about education's actual place in the hierarchy when push comes to shove.
I appreciate you highlighting those broader infrastructural and systemic challenges. They are undoubtedly real, and they absolutely deserve attention. However, my focus for this debate remains on this specific incident. The Ungaludan Stalin program, in its very essence, is a vital lifeline for countless citizens. and its implementation in diverse, often remote, rural settings, well, it will inevitably present logistical hurdles. The decision to use Alathudaiyanpatti's school, while certainly not ideal, I maintain it was a pragmatic, immediate response. It was intended to ensure critical services reach those in dire need efficiently and without undue delay. The swift action to schedule a makeup day and the ongoing review by the Education Department and Collector Saravanan, that demonstrates a clear and tangible commitment to rectify any oversight without undermining the overarching, crucial objective of accessible governments and public welfare. To truly connect with people, to address their most immediate and pressing needs, sometimes that involves making difficult choices that, crucially, are quickly remedied and then rigorously reviewed for future improvements. Isn't that, in a way, a sign of responsive governance? When an immediate challenge is met and then steps are immediately taken to prevent recurrence?
Well, while I readily acknowledge the program's commendable intent to serve the public, the incident at Alathudaiyanpatti Union Middle School for me still powerfully underscores a critical need. A need for clearer priorities and far more robust, proactive planning and governance. Education, especially for vulnerable students who often have limited other resources, it really should be considered absolutely sacrosanct. This particular incident, I think, highlights a profound tension where political outreach, however well-intended and potentially beneficial it might be, can inadvertently sideline fundamental rights and needs. It calls for much more deliberate consideration of truly appropriate alternative venues beforehand, and a much firmer, unwavering commitment to ensuring that no child's learning is sacrificed for administrative convenience or what certainly appears to some as political optics. Only by doing that, I believe, can we truly uphold the foundational importance of education in a state that consistently prides itself on its progressive ideals and achievements.
This discussion really does illuminate that tightrope walk of modern governance, doesn't it? Balancing different, often equally important societal needs. We've certainly heard compelling arguments for both the immediate delivery of welfare services and the unwavering protection of educational continuity.
There are clearly strong arguments on both sides regarding the choices made in Tiruchy, and the complexities of these kinds of trade-offs, they're just not easily resolved, are they?
Indeed. The complexities of delivering vital welfare while rigorously safeguarding education are profound. And as the Ungaludan Stalin camps continue to unfold across the state, this conversation, I suspect, will undoubtedly evolve. It will keep pushing us to continually refine how we balance these crucial imperatives.